Hey guys, glad to be here filming today again. Um, Today I think I'm gonna do less rambling about what I normally talk about, which is sin, sexual sin, and all this other shit, and really focus more on the. It's something that it's not that it's different, right? Because everything, just like Ecclesiastes, like everything has been under the sun. Like everything that's done has been done, right? I don't want to lie and tell you like, oh man, it's never been done before. Like, no, that's not it at all. Okay, so I'm trying to focus this fucking camera, but okay, try like this. Let's hold it. Got the food right here. Gotta pee, but I didn't. Let's go. I always talk about sexual sin, and sex, because that's a way that I dealt with a lot of my past, which was fucking it out, right? Jerking off, sometimes doing drugs, alcohol, just a whole litany of things to numb myself from this obvious pain of words appreciated, overly murdered, sometimes beat as a youngster, and how I felt about it afterwards. All these things that to some people they can handle, but for me, for some reason, I cannot handle it. And I did not handle it very well at all. And now, right now, I'm in a really great city with surrounded by really beautiful people, and everything is lovely. But it almost feels like a repeat, right? It almost feels like back when I was in college, in the college era of my life, where plus I started college late too. So you would think if you started college like 2021, that you would have a more so leverage over the environment that you're in, meaning that, oh, I'm older, I've been through this. I know how to deal with these people, these college youngsters. I know how to not get sucked into partying and drugs and sex and vices. The problem is you're not. I'm not. And I was the type of guy that went to Princeton in the summer. Luckily, through my father's help and through my own intelligence, I was able to go for like a Princeton summer program for kids, for black kids at that. So it was supposed to be tailored for my experience, and even then I failed. That's not the point. The point is, what happens when nothing seems to work out? And again, I could go on and on and on about how my life didn't work out the way it's supposed to. How I did this, the Navy, sex, girlfriends, wives, almost got married. Like, what happens when it seems like everything you're trying is not working out, and you're getting older, and you can't rely on the things that you used to do to get money, such as maybe your charm, or your reputation, or your personality, or your sex appeal. What happens to you, or what can happen to your life as you age, and there's no really obvious forward momentum? Like, what's the worst that could happen? We had a guy recently who owned a alcohol company, just got cited for not only gross, really just sexual rape, and it was that of a young person. So, and this is someone who was like a multi-millionaire who lived in Disney with his family, with his wife, and he, essentially ruined his life. In other words, right? As we all do, but not to, like, some people ruin their lives through drinking, through cheating on their wife, through stealing money from the company, not through gross sexual pedophilic abuse. And it seems like nowadays that's becoming like more and more of a normal standard. Like, more and more people get busted for this type of behavior. And it's like, are people getting more disgusting? Or is nothing new under the sun? And you didn't hear about these things until people became older, people came out more, and victims started becoming more than just crazy people, right? People actually said, I went through this, and therefore this is why I act this way. Whether it's preachers, teachers, whatever, there seems to be a certain pattern of this type of behavior, and I don't know how it's connected to what I'm speaking of, but I brought it up. But it's more like, what happens if I don't get my shit together? Even though on paper, literally, I have money, I have paper in my account, I have money, I have a wife, I have a spouse, I have a family, I seem normal, but internally I am not normal. I haven't watched a documentary, and I can talk about myself all day, and I am very not normal, very fucked up. But I'm not here to talk about me, because I'm not. But I'm not telling you this because like, oh yeah, I got it all figured out. No, dog. If you look into me, you'd be like, he should be in the electric chair, and I probably should. But I'm here to inform you. At least that's why I think I'm still living, is to help at least the next person, whether they're younger, older than me, but they're in that stage of they're teetering between fucking up and not fucking up. And I'll say this, it's not that you don't have the if you don't have the ability to not fuck up. It's that it's just like when Tony Soprano is in the psychiatrist's office. He's confused deeply because he's like, oh, I can just have a conversation and then this will all go away. Like my feelings over being in the mob will go away. And it's like after, because the mob, the Mafia show, The Sopranos, is a fake show. Like that's some of that stuff has happened to people, but it like the key thing is like if you even talk to a psychiatrist, they would murder you and the psychiatrist. So it's like before, like within the first season, they would have killed Tony Soprano for talking, and somehow he lives and he's like, oh yeah, I beat him. It's like, Tony, no, they would have murdered you because you're talking, you're basically snitching, right? In this key government conspiracy thing of the Sopranos, it's 99% of it is fictional. The violence could be a real life thing, I guess, but that's based off of like 1990s to 1960s when David Chase was like living in some neighborhood and his mom was overbearing, and all this stuff is like based, like the stuff you see on TV is usually based off of stuff that someone experienced 20 years prior. Like if I made a show about like porn and sex at a HBCU, it wouldn't be off of the year that the show was released. I would base it off of, you know, if I ever got the chance to do it, it'd be like back in 2010 eras. So nowadays that'd be like almost 20 years ago now, as I'm saying this. We're at least 10 years out, literally 15 years out now, so whatever. But it's like, bro, you know, this thing about, you know, what happens if you don't get your shit together. It's like, okay, I think about it like, you know, obviously in Sopranos, you've seen it, Tony, like, is allegedly shot at the end. He's like, why is he shot? No, he was about to change. It's like, no, nothing about Tony was about to change, if anything. But what is, it's like the same as in Mad Men, as in Breaking Bad, as in The Sopranos, as in The Wire. It's like the cycle keeps going no matter what. But at least like in certain shows like Mad Men, there seems to be a certain degree of like, it's not that he accepts that he's a fucked up person, but I feel as though in Mad Men, like a guy like that is like, he like cries at the end because he realizes like, oh, like I don't have to keep fighting this. And even what's the word I'm looking for? Tony Soprano is like, when he kills Christopher in the show, and he's like, I did it. What ideally what happened is I did it, and then you call the police and you admit to murder and you go to jail, and it's like, in there you would actually get help, because it's not that Tony you're a bad person. It's like, Tony, your mind is not right. You know, your mind has normalized murder and violence to a degree that you have become dangerous to even the people that you intend to protect. And that's not just a moral failing. That's a biological failing of your mind. Your mind is not trying to protect you anymore at this point. It just wants. I don't even know. I couldn't explain it to you, right? And that's the same thing as anyone going through any type of deterrent behavior or addiction, whether it's drugs, sex, weed, violence, lying, manipulation, jealousy, like whatever your thing is, eventually that thing, it's not that the thing of, oh, if you shit together everything will work out. It's, you have to accept that you probably cannot get your shit together, because if you did, it wouldn't even be a problem to even discuss. You would like mess up one time and be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that anymore. Not, oh, I keep having to fight this every second of the day by myself. Like the other day I was at my job and I saw this woman who clearly looked like she had was an addict of drugs, probably cocaine. And if you know anything about drug addicts, you know what one may or may not look like. Sunken eyes, teeth. Not that she wasn't beautiful, not that she wasn't glowing in her own way. She probably had a husband. She was probably a great person to her kids or whatever. But she, even then when she was at work, she would flip out at work. Not at me, but it's the consequence of, like, you know, you it's beyond the consequence of you just did drugs. It's like your mind needed the drug for some reason, and to a certain degree it probably still does, right? So it's like seeing her made me realize, and also too, it's like, hold on. And also too, it's like, again, I was at work and this woman was flirting with me at the job, and she was flirting with me in the first like 5 minutes at the job or something like that, like the first hour and a half, or she was just talking to me, and I was just like, oh, she must like me. I must really be having my stuff together, or she's like a flirtatious woman, because when I said she was talking to me, and I said, man, she talks like, doesn't she? And she said, yeah, I do, or something like that. I forgot what she said. She was like, yeah, I like to talk to this other guy a lot too. And I was like, bingo. Like, again, this is not word for word, I'm paraphrasing, but basically she was like, yeah, I'm a flirt and I flirt with everybody. And she basically she was kind of alluding to that she might, you know, fuck around with everybody, whatever that means. It's not just oh, you're a bad person. It's like, that's maybe how you're designed. Maybe you went through something and it turned your brain. That's another thing too. In film and television, they really want to emphasize trauma is the reason why people act the way that they act immorally, and they want to not talk about how your mind is set to certain genetic behaviors, like in what's the word I'm looking for? Like in the Sopranos as well, and anyone with a TV psychiatrist that talks about it, but like in Mad Men, when Don is dating his psychiatrist, and she's like, oh, everyone doesn't think that they're a type. And he's like, what? He's like, I remember she said that briefly. She's like, oh yeah, never mind. It's like, it was so small, and it's like, oh, for people it's like, oh yeah, you know, that means you really can't change. You just have to do this, do that. But it's deeper than that, because it's not that you're not trying to change. It's not that you're not even successful. There are some people who I've gone to NA meetings, Narcotics Anonymous meetings, SA meetings, AA meetings, fucking Overeaters Anonymous, OA meetings, all that shit. And the main thing I see from a lot of these people that are a little bit older than me is, because I have to recognize too that I'm the adult now. I'm not just a child listening, but I'm the adult. I realize a lot of these older people, at least from the ones like in NA, some of them were kind of like thugs in the 90s and the 80s, and they started doing drugs to cope with life. After they stopped doing drugs, they're still like gangsters. Like, that part of them has not changed, and that's a good thing to not change in that aspect, right? Like, we need guys that are tough, that we can rely upon when my sense of duty of just talking about a problem doesn't work anymore. You need someone that's going to be like, hey, let's stop fucking around. Let's get busy. You need that, right? And that's, thank God for that type of person. Even RSD talked about a guy, like someone who's like a Jimmy. A Jimmy is like a guy who's crazy, who might eat you, literally, might eat you alive, but he's needed in society. But then it's like, that's also what he was explaining just about different personality types. Like, you have a purpose in life, and there's positives to that, and there's also negatives, right? So let's think about, again, what happens if we don't change? I think you're like me right now, who's kind of like living with his mom, living with strangers, living in homeless shelters, and more so living with homeless shelters, because it's like, you realize it's not like there was an effort. It's not like we didn't have jobs. It's not like there wasn't a plan. It's not like there wasn't an attempt to get out of your situation. Several attempts. But at a certain level, you realize, I keep doing the same thing because maybe my mind says that I can handle it. Like, right now, I'm in a city where I'm looking at people who are in suits, who are in ties, who are in button-up shirts, and they have certain goals and aspirations. But what they fail to realize is, and what we all fail to realize is, it's like okay. Side note again, to my own side note, I was working at a security firm, and they had pictures of people before and after who used to work there, who, when they lost their job or got downsized, they would sometimes lose their mind. I remember this one woman, light-skinned woman, looked like she could be in her 40s or her early 50s. Beautiful in her own right for an older woman. Beautiful young lady, I guess you could call it. I'm not trying to be rude, but just she's beautiful in her own right. And praise God for that, because an older man should like that. Amen. She showed a picture of her, scarf, bonnet on. I think she has some glasses. Nice lady. Then it showed her after, which was her, I guess, trying to get back in the building after she had lost her job. And she looked like a fucking mess. Like, she looked like she had maybe been prostitute. Like, it looked like she was on like meth or crack in the second photo. And this is the same woman. So what kept her from being that distraught all those years? And it was probably that job, that good paying job. There are a lot of sisters who were, I should say Sisters of Christ, because I want to make people think I'm just talking about African Americans or anything like that, but because that's what people say when they say sisters, they say African American women. But there were a lot of people who got fired when Trump got elected that were happening black women in the DC area. And then one of them came down to this like mental health place that I go to sometimes to get free mental health. And she was talking to me as if, I think she was, in her mind, maybe she was saying like us people of color. And I was like, I almost wanted to say like, you're not fooling anyone. Like, yes, we are like black in essence, and we all come from Africa, because that is the dawn of civilization, is Africa. But make no mistake, I am here because I am mentally ill. You are here as a counselor. There needs to be a separation of persons, because if I believe what you're saying, right? She was kind of cute, and I have like I have bipolarism, I have sex addiction, I have all these problems. I'm like, I'm going to believe that you like me, and that I have a chance at getting with you or dating you. There's no reason why I should have that chance. This is very inappropriate, right? This is like that's that line blur that people have, where it's like something crazy happens and you just try to get a job real quick and do something real quick, and you're not. Maybe she was a counselor in DC for the National Department of Psychiatric Services, and that's great, but it's like, hey fam, like, let's be honest with each other. Like, you're only here because you lost a job. And I don't know how you got the job so quick. I really don't want to know, but it's like, and also another thing too, even a side note to the side note to the side note about mental health. The only thing that's really getting treated with mental health nowadays is like drugs. So if you're a drug addict, they will treat you and say you have mental health disorders. It's like, that is not, I don't think that's how mental health works, because actually, from what I read in this book one time, like at one of the how do I say this? One of the earliest birthplaces of psychiatric services was in Europe, and it was by a doctor who would treat women who would go into psychosis because they had been recently sexually assaulted, maybe oftentimes by their husbands or their boyfriends or whoever, God forbid. And they did not know how to communicate how they felt, so they would lose their mind and become hysterical and become psychotic. And their husbands would probably take them in to see a doctor, and like, it's like, no, you've been raped. Like, you have to like press charges or leave him or get someone to deal with this. Like, that is the cure. And even though like we at this channel like want to protect everyone, it's like, you have to expect bad things to happen to you if you do bad things to people. The only difference is how you deal with it. Do you do drugs, drink, gamble, try to hurt the person trying to hurt you, or do you accept it and move on with your life and pretty much do what I'm doing, which is make videos, because you don't know how many days you have left. You have to get as much information out to people as you can to help them as much as you can. So let's get back to the main point. What happens when you don't get your shit together? You keep working these jobs, you keep losing these jobs, the same pattern you've probably been doing. You get old, your back goes out, Your hip goes out. You get heavy. You get fat. You become less sexually appealing. So you can't just easily get jobs anymore if you were young and sexy or something. And what happens is society kind of sort of takes care of you, but not in any real way. Like, not in a sense of like, oh man, we're looking out for you, man. We're going to help you. We're going to get you a job. We're going to get you a place to live. We're going to get you money every month that, you know, you can only spend this much. We're going to get you, you're going to live here. Like, society is not going to do that to the average person because you have not made any commitment to help society back. Like a lot of people help their children who are fuck-ups because they know that one day they'll get old and one day their children will help them, or at least they should help them at some point. But to the average Schmo Joe on the street, they won't do the same thing because they don't think you'll be able to help them later on in life if they invest into you. So they just won't help you as much. And you need more than food, water, and shelter to become a person. You need a purpose. Something you could do every day that gives you energy and helps the people around you. More than just like that, like it's more than being a Pharisee, which is like you just follow the rules of a religion and yet you still go to hell because you followed one rule and broke another. Like Jesus said, like, you Pharisees, you go into the houses of widows and whatever the fuck. I shouldn't say whatever the fuck, I'm talking about Jesus, but you know what I'm trying to say. It's like, yes, you are outwardly religious, and yes, you outwardly talk about God, but behind the scenes, you got 9 baby mom. You doing whatever. You living that life. I'm not saying it's shitty. You just get a shitty outcome. Like Epstein is dead. Like Bill Clinton is probably going to be dead. His wife they said she opened someone's face up and like laughed about it in court. Like it's just like, you don't realize how bad it is because you don't know like how bad it can get it's not that if you get help, it's what can you do in a permanent sense to, one, help as many people as you can for as long as you can, and two, not be a burden to others in society. The answer to that is simple, yet it's a little bit tough. And I've said this for a long time because I saw this in a movie and it made sense. It's the Sister Act. What is the Sister Act? The Sister Act is a movie about Whoopi Goldberg, who's a diva living in Las Vegas, dating mobsters and singing and doing whatever she wants to do in life and just living her best life. And ultimately, it almost gets her killed. Not because she did anything wrong, but because she walked in at the wrong place at the wrong time. So she's actually at the right place at the wrong time. Meaning she was at the event to sing and mind her business, but she walked into a deal that went wrong with the mob at the wrong time. And they were going to kill her for it. She did nothing but exist in the wrong person's space, and she was going to be killed for it. So what happens? She runs away and lives in this monastery. She's going to testify in court so she can live, and she meets these nuns and she changes her life around, and she becomes what she thought she could never be, which is a nun, a good sister, to help the kids and help people become good people all throughout their lives and shit. Great. A lot of people saw that movie in the 90s and were like, oh, that's just a great movie. That movie, to me, was better than The Color Purple by 1,000. Because I saw both versions of The Color Purple. And to me, both versions re-emphasized that slavery has a hold on you forever. And that trauma has a certain hold on you forever. Until you stand up for yourself, and then you can do... But the problem with that whole stand up for yourself thing is that some people cannot do that. That's why they say surrender it to Jesus. Okay? What does that mean in a practical sense? What does Jesus say? Tell the truth, don't lie. Okay, I can't stand up for myself against this person, but I can tell on you. Another thing too, guys, I want to say this to the guys or to those who identify as male or physically dominant over others, which is more important. If you are dating someone and you are the more physically assertive person, meaning I'm not even talking about traditionally male, but you're just stronger than your partner. And let's say you are traditionally male, like let's say you are a heterosexual in a heterosexual relationship, and you're in a more traditional sense of you are stronger than your female counterpart. Let's say theoretically, right? In that regard, there is something to the effect that you have to practice something to the nature of not just courtesy, not just self-respect, not just resiliency in trouble. You have to practice a level of clear-headedness, because you're like 5 times stronger than your partner, right? Me and my girl got into it one time because of my own bullshit, and she punched me in the face deservingly, and I cried because I was always afraid of violence my whole life. And then when my girlfriend at the time hit me, because it's the bullshit that I did, I almost was like in shock because I could take the hit. And it's not because she's weak, it's because I was in the service. I played football when I was little for a little bit. I just did regular kind of sort of traditional masculine things. Not now, but back in the day. Whatever that means to you is whatever that means to you. But my body is naturally, like even today, I got off work, I work in a freezer. I lifted weights for basically 8 hours today. And it wasn't that bad to me. I was like, oh, that kind of sucks, but whatever. I took maybe 2 breaks, and then I chilled out. It wasn't that deep to me. It sucked, and my back hurts like a motherfucker, but it's like I'll be okay. Does that make sense? You have to understand, bro. And that's another thing too. Traditional heterosexual relationship, I'm great at strength compared to my partner. Every partner I've ever dated was probably weaker than me. They had a lot of leg strength, some of them. But as far as anything type of altercation, you can't seriously box that's why the whole thing with guys, I've caught guys hitting their wives and stuff. The reason why it's so crazy, why society takes that so seriously, is because you don't understand. It's like if Mike Tyson, not even Mike Tyson, if a bodybuilder was beating me up. If a bodybuilder was beating my ass, the bodybuilder's like, oh yeah, he's so weak. It's like, no, you're just 8 times stronger than most human beings alive. And even me, if I bench press 300 pounds regularly, I'm stronger than, I think, the top 10% of men in my age group. It's like, when you have that gift of God in you, not even me, because I've injured my back, my shoulder, my hip, so that Christ through me can let me know that I have strength within me through him, then it's like, okay, I'm good now. I don't have to, and I have to remind myself constantly, I'm not the same person that used to get bullied, got beat up, got jumped. Because if I think I'm the same person and I get into an altercation with somebody thinking I'm the same person, I might overly fuck somebody up, and then they might then you beat somebody to death, and then you go to jail. It's so insanely bad because, again, let's go back to the main topic. What happens if your life doesn't change? You think you're still the same dude. Outwardly, you are aging. Outwardly, your body is getting weaker. Outwardly, you're maybe getting better at your job, but you're getting dumber in other areas. Dumber in other areas is social areas. You start watching the news more. You start believing in politicians more. You start really believing the hype more because you're older and you're weaker and you need someone to, quote unquote, fight for you. Right? You start getting a little, I just heard a guy talk crazy to this homeless guy. You start being more mouthy, and you're like, oh, my mouth can do more damage and more influence than my fists. And it's like, that is correct in a sense, but it's like when Hitler was making these speeches, yeah, people getting rah-rahed up, but also a guy like that, it's not about the speeches you make that people will change their minds. It's that whoever controls guns, you convince that few group of people, and then they let you do whatever you want. And if people disagree with your policies, you would shoot them. Which is why they say dictators rise to power through speeches. It's like, no. They get elected to office as normal people, and then they start doing this heinous shit. So it's like, do with that what you will. But again, let's talk about this. What happens if you don't get your shit together, right? What may happen is you're just really susceptible to being homeless, to drugs, to alcohol, to various vices because a part of you is like still 12, a part of you is still 25, a part of you is still 32, right? When you get really stressed out, you might revert back to a certain age where it was more comforting. Like me, watch cartoons and watch. Like I watched this guy play 2K basketball from like 2016 to 2013 when I was like a teenager, and it's like that's okay, but that's not really solving my fucking problems, right? What can solve your problems is like doing what many people can't do, but what a lot of us should do, which is like, bro, monastery, monk it up, like legit be a monk. Like, I don't mean like, and at first I thought it was like modern day monk, where you can live in the 21st century and still practice the Tao and still be a Christian and still fuck big booty bitches and still namaste and all this stuff. It's not that you can do all that and you'll be in jail by the end of the year, or you'll be dead, or you'll be highly in debt. Because it's not the fact that you can't do those things simultaneously. It's the fact that you can't keep up the lie that those personalities would have to make. Like, it's like with the mob, like how hypocritical they are, where they have wives and they cheat, and they go to church but they murder, and they talk about honor and yet they lie. So it all ends with either jail or dead, because not just the fact that, oh, you're a sinful person. It's like your brain is in such a dispute between personalities that you'll do something to crash out. Or like Tony Soprano, what does he do? He kills Christopher, and there's no regard behind that. It's like, yes, there is, bro. Like, you're so stressed out that you start making bad decisions. Whatever. I'm trying to think. I talk so much that a kidney stone fell out my mouth. But not a kidney stone, but whatever the fuck you call it. But it just never ends good, man. Like I'm seeing here, I'm sitting down, I'm seeing, people walk around and they're maybe homeless, or even these tech people, like, they don't know that. Like, I know a guy who sells hot dogs in the city, and he used to be a major tech guy. Then all the tech support went overseas, and he was like, I'll just sell hot dogs. And that's what he does. He went from a tech support guy to a man that sells hot dogs. I'm like, you would think that you would fucking... Oh, man. You would think that you'd be somebody who works in tech support, right, forever. Or you would reapply to a certain job, and it's like, no, he realized, you know what? I'm just selling hot dogs. I saw an African migrant the other day who was in China or Japan. He was selling hot dogs. So you think he was selling hot dogs his whole life in Japan? I highly doubt that. But it's like, at a certain age, you realize like it's not that this is all a game, like that easy game theory shit that people just throw around when they realize, like, oh, people are hypocritical. It's like, it's not that it's a game. It's like, because your life is not a joke, but it's like the old people who are at the top of these institutions. You don't know how they got there. You don't know how they honestly did what they did, and you think it's just because they clocked in and out every day. You don't know how ambitious they were, or how ambitious you have to be. Like, it's not like, oh yeah, I was working at the there's a story from Doritos that they made a whole movie about it. It turns out I think most of it was a lie, but they said, oh, there was this guy at the Doritos plant who, he put some chilies in the Doritos and made firing hot Doritos, man. It was crazy. And it's like, really? And then you look into the story, it's like, it's not what happened at all. I forgot what the real story was, but I heard from someone or from the internet that, like, that story is not accurate. Like that did not accurately happen. He was a line worker who put some chilies in the fucking shit, and then he made Doritos. Like, I don't think that's how that happened. But I mean, who am I? I don't want to be a dick. It's just like, there is a very intentionality to success. It's not anyway, I could go on and on, but it's like, okay, what happens if things don't work out? That's the only thing I'm getting back at this whole video. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I want to be sure I'm talking with some sort of distinction. It's not like, think about this shit within the next month. If I don't get my shit together, what can happen next? Fuck, if I don't get my shit together, what can happen tomorrow? Like, what can happen tomorrow? What can happen this evening? What can happen in the next 10 seconds? Right? As you get older, you can't hit on women the same way you used to hit on women anymore when you were younger, because we live in a day and age where, and that's really good. And even in the state of like certain states, like I think North Carolina is one of them, like if you were a victim of sexual abuse, assault, you can get paid through the state for like trauma therapy for like the rest of your life. And I advise you to take advantage of that. And some people say, oh no, you shouldn't. Nah, man, it's fucked up. It's like, no, dude, I cannot leave you out here in the world and you have like the mind of a child and the body of a woman and you want to fuck everything. It's or the same thing with men. If you are a victim of sexual assault, you will be financially compensated, not just by the person who did it to you, but the state will compensate you. The state will compensate you in North Carolina. So you should take advantage of that, because at least the state now has to realize, like especially when they started to ban porn and things like that, they realize, okay, the internet and the country has fucked up to where we allowed you to watch this desensitized content, and your mind just said, oh, then we should do that. All that stuff is not like, even you watch porn, like I go on and on, but like the porn stars today, like a lot of them, if they one woman is married to some guy and she's unemployed, and she works like a KFC, and it's like, what? Like it doesn't make sense, because like all that time you spent in that industry, you would think you would have business management skills, time management skills, real estate investors, be able to mortgage, be able to do math. But it's not that you can't, it's that it's beyond just the fact that, oh, you made the wrong decision. Your mind was already damaged because you chose that decision in the first place. That is just the manifestation of your mind. Like, your mind is susceptible to that, therefore you did that, right? Like, some people are susceptible to murder, and then they murder. Or some people are susceptible to lust, and then they have a lustful moment. Regardless, whatever, it's like, that's why certain people don't do certain things. It's not because one person is better than the other. It's because you just aren't wired that way to do certain things. So what happens if you don't get your shit together? You can become a criminal. You can become someone, not even worse than a criminal, because I don't want to compare and contrast people's lives, but you can just keep on like waking up by yourself, and you just will wake up alone one day. Or you'll wake up to even an orgy and you'll feel alone. Like, you'll feel like you're wasting time, and you'll act like you don't know what it is, but it's like you should be doing something meaningful, and you're at, an orgy. And it seems lit, but if it was lit, you wouldn't have these thoughts constantly consuming your every moment. So what is a better thought, so that you're not, my grandmother recently died. She was a nice person. Because of my addictive behavior, I couldn't be with her on Christmas, and I think she spent Christmas alone. While she was retired, while she bought houses, while she tried to have husbands, I think her, and I say my grandmother, I meant to say my great-grandmother, but even my grandmother, I think to a certain degree of, a lot of people try to get to a point of just surviving in a comfortable position. Like, I'm surviving. Hey, I got retirement. I got a gold watch. I got a hot wife. And I'm good. I'm safe now. And it's like, yes, but it is, what happens? Like, do you have any repressed feelings? And how does that repression express itself? And in many times, it represses itself in very aggressive, unhealthy ways. Like, you want some people that want a daddy dom, or they call themselves littles, and it's all this like repressed anger and emotion. It's like, again, I don't blame people, because I know things happen to people, but it's also, your mind is susceptible to many things, and when trauma does hit it, it can also permanently damage it. So while we still have functions of our mind, because as we get older, it gets harder to keep a job, it gets harder to concentrate, it does get harder to be sexy, to have employment, to have a spouse, to keep things, it gets harder. So before we end up with nothing, I don't care how old you are. I don't care what you have going on. I don't care if you're 99. Go to that mosque. Go to that temple. Go to that Garden of Eden, whatever place that's religious, and say, how can I start living like this every day? And for me, that might be living like a monk. I might, and also have sex addiction, so I might have to go to a state that allows people that have sex addiction to thrive in certain areas. Areas meaning not politics or religion or anything like that, although a monk is religious, but I don't mean in a political sense. I mean like in a sense of you can have a job, maybe you can a trade and commerce, you can work in some factory, and if people know about your life, your lifestyle choices, it's not the end of the world. Like, they won't kill themselves or try to kill you. Or also, even, I'm thinking selfishly, even more specifically, how can I become a monastery monk so I can, as quickly as possible, find somewhere to live that I can then just focus on retirement and helping my people out, which is all of the planet, but also helping out people that also face bipolarism and put them into more areas where they can win and not be taken advantage of, right? Not be put in situations where they're abused by their spouse, or not be put into situations where they are abused by the police, or they're abused by their workers, their co-workers, their boss, the army, whatever. Like, these people sometimes in life try to find a way out of their situation through those means, or to some people, the people that, like, they call themselves adult film stars, a lot of the times they maybe unknowingly, yes, they have common sense, but they don't have like large amounts of qualifiable knowledge. Not just nurses and, well, actually some of them are nurses, doctors, psychiatrists, and they go into that field of content because they're not addressing their spiritual needs. You're only addressing their psychological and physical needs, but your whole being is mind, body, and spirit. So without the spiritual needs, not showing up to church, but the needs, you'll say, oh, my life is empty. Let me just pleasure myself until I'm satisfied, which is never, right? And then that's how people end up becoming monsters and pedophiles, and I shouldn't say monsters, but it's how people can unintentionally allow themselves to be heinous partakers of crime. So what does that mean to you? How do we stop this from happening? How do we not allow ourselves to kill ourselves with our actions? Bro, just join that monastery, bro. At least talk to the monks. Ask them how they do it. Get a job. Hold it down. If you know someone in the service, tell them that you can get a free loan to buy a house, save up a couple thousand, rent it out, rent 3 or 4 homes, get some real estate, buy into a company, buy a laundromat, and just keep that cycle of money going. Become a unit, guys. It's not, I know you want to be alpha, but listen, that dick gotta go if it's harmful, or if you sexually harmed others, it gotta go. Or if you say I'm not sexually harmed others, I just got a lot of baby mamas, but they all like me. That means something that you just like, yo, chill. You gotta chill. You gotta chill it out, bro. And you don't gotta cut off your whole piece to be a unit. You just alter yourself in a way sexually that is in agreement with God. So that doesn't mean become trans, but it means, okay, maybe the testicles gotta go, ladies, maybe vaginal walls gotta go. I don't know, something. You figure it out in Jesus' name and ask him for help. But after you do that, or while you're doing everything, live in that monk. Actually live in a monastery. I'm not saying, no, man, just visit once every day. No, like, live there. You ain't doing shit else anyway, right? And that the church is the only thing that seems to be lasting. Like they'll shut down a hospital of mentally ill people. They'll shut it off. They will be like, money ain't here no more. And then in the 80s, people just got let out in the street. And some of them looked normal, and they acted normal, and they had kids with people. And then those kids were born with certain genetic features that are less susceptible, that are less accepting in society, right? Not that it's their fault. It's how you were made. It's just what happens, right? So, again, let me emphasize this. What do we do when we start getting old? How do we start handling our age as far as, like, what happens when the shit just isn't working out anymore? Drop everything you're doing, follow Jesus, all that good stuff, and then map out a way to start living in a monastery. Literally, watch the Sister Act, smoke a blunt if you got, or don't smoke. I don't even want to tell you to smoke a blunt because nowadays it got psychosis in it too. So don't start losing your mind, tripping balls. Just get in that robe, get in that life. You'll have a more peaceful life. Make jewelry, make YouTube videos about dumb shit, whatever. Talk about Jesus, whatever. Expose pedophiles, whatever. Expose abusive people, not just pedophiles. Expose abusive people. Call out people, and just live a more decent life. Because I'm telling you, man, if you don't have like I was supposed to talk about cults and the Illuminati today, but honestly, it's like if you don't have, like, if you're not going to do that and then risk going to hell, then this life is rough without God. It's very rough. So anyway, I love you guys. Stay blessed. Take care. Again, look into the monastery life, monastic life. Love you. Bye-bye.